Supreme Namaskarams to all of you, especially to Honorable Padmanabh Rao Garu and his daughter Shailija Garu, who invited me to give and interact with you all, and best wishes to all the students. Today we will be discussing about the functioning of Honorable Supreme Court in India, whether it's doing the work and complying with the basic principles of the Constitution of India. When we look at the Constitution of India and its origin, which stretches nearly to over 40 years before its enactment, we feel wonder now, because the world marvels at how well the Indian Constitution has kept a diverse country together for more than 75 years or so. Its robustness and durability rest on its many built-in safeguards securing citizens' rights to freedom and justice and fair play, which no government, however powerful, can hope to effectively recast within the space of a single or even multiple tenures in office. We can understand by going through the history of the country of us that after there being roundtable conferences which represent a distinct departure in British approaches to India, considering then facts and circumstances, we were given freedom. The British recognized that there was a clear recognition of British country that the subcontinent was becoming increasingly difficult to manage by them, and unless some sort of autonomy was given by leaders like Mahatma Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru, who believed in peaceful protest, were influential, there was also an armed struggle would follow, possibly under a leadership like Subhash Chandra Bose. We have to recognize then situation that there were colonial origins, and also we must feel proud that the Constituent Assembly were willing to incorporate in our Constitution the best from anywhere, whether they were ideas from our former colonialists or, as in the case of the directive principles of state policy borrowed from the Irish Constitution. Whatever it is, we have now the Constitution, and in terms of the Constitution which we got, and after considering the origin of the Constitution and particularly the period which stretches to over 40 years before its enactment, we understand that we want to achieve the goals of the Constitution, which are enshrined in the preamble itself, by mentioning as on today that we want to constitute by resolving ourselves that we want to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, and what not. we now have the constitution which consists of articles and schedules, and the total articles we have got here are 395 and 22 parts. In the 22 parts, part 1 deals with the union and its territory, part 2 deals with citizenship, part 3 deals with fundamental rights, and part 4 deals with directive principles of state policy, part 4A deals with fundamental duties, and part 5 deals with the union. In this part 5, there are 5 chapters. We today will be discussing about the chapter 4 of this part 5 of the Constitution. But before discussing about it, let us see what are the other parts in part 5. The union. Chapter 1 is dealing with the executive. It tells about us about the executive. Chapter 2 deals with parliament, and chapter 3 deals with the legislative power of the president, and chapter 4 deals with the union judiciary, and then chapter 5 deals with comptroller and auditor general of India. Unless and until we understand all the chapters of the union part 5, we will not be able to understand the exact role of the Supreme Court. But let us now concern ourselves about the present scenario and functions of the Supreme Court. Before looking into this aspect, we must proudly feel happy that in part 3 of the Constitution, Article 13 tells duties of the Supreme Court when we read it along with Article 32 of the Constitution. Article 13 says, all laws in force in the territory India immediately before the commencement of this Constitution, insofar as they are inconsistent with the provisions of this part, shall to that extent of such inconsistency be void. So whatever laws were there by the date of Constitution coming into force, if they are inconsistent with any provisions of the fundamental rights, that is chapter part 3 of the Constitution, then to that extent such inconsistency be void. And if any law after the Constitution has come into force is made, and any part of that law is in contravention of this clause, then to that extent of that contravention it is void. Then there is a definition of what are laws in force and what is law. Law definition is very important. Law means not merely what Parliament makes. It says that law includes any ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification, custom or usage having in the territory of India the force of law. With this, now we will go to chapter 4 of part part 5, which deals with the union. In that chapter 5, in that part 5, there are 5 chapters. Chapter 1 is dealing with the executive. Chapter 2 is parliament. Then chapter 3 is legislative power of the president. and chapter 4 is the Union Judiciary, and chapter 5 is the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Let us see what is this chapter 4 of part 5 of the Constitution. It deals with the Union Judiciary. Article 124, it says that there shall be a Supreme Court of India consisting of a Chief Justice of India, and until Parliament by law prescribes a large number of not more than 7 other judges. So originally, when Constitution has come into force, there was only with effect from 1979, only 7 other judges were there, but at present 34 judges are, including Chief Justice, are there. 34 posts are there of Supreme Court judges. Now 9 judges are appointed. So out of 34, 24 are already there, including Chief Justice. Now 9 judges are appointed by Honorable President of India, and recommendation is given and orders are going to come. And on 31st, these 9 judges are going to swear in the swearing in ceremony. So, who appoints the Judge of Supreme Court is, that is President of India by warrant under his seal, on recommendations of the National Judicial Appointments Commission referred in Article 124A, and shall hold office until he attains the age of 65 years. This is Article 124 Clause 2. Actually, this 124A is struck down as holding it as unconstitutional. Now, what is and how the judges are appointed we will discuss. But it is the President by warrant under his hand and seal appoints the judges of Supreme Court and also the judges of High Court. But Article 124 deals with regarding judges of Supreme Court. So they are entitled to continue as judges of Supreme Court until they attain the age of 65 years, and the judges are entitled at any time by addressing to the President or writing to the President to resign from his office, or he may be removed before he attains the age of 65 years by following the procedure contemplated under Clause 4 of Article 124. Then qualifications of a judge is, he has been for at least 5 years a judge of High Court or 2 or more such courts in succession, or at least 10 years practiced as an advocate of High Court or of 2 or more such courts in succession. Class C is important. That is, apart from these 2 alternatives, one more alternative is there, that he is, in the opinion of the President, a distinguished jurist. So he must be a citizen of India, but even if he is not having law degree or practice as an advocate or already worked as Judge of High Court, still he can be appointed as the Judge of Supreme Court, provided he is a distinguished jurist. So that is what regarding qualifications. Article 124 deals with what are the requisite conditions for considering of a person when he is to be appointed as Judge of Supreme Court. Then about Article 124A, that is National Judicial Appointments Commission, it is already struck down as unconstitutional. This 124A to C are struck down. Now 125, it deals with salaries and other aspects of judges such as privileges and allowances. Then Article 126 deals with appointment of an acting Chief Justice. This happens when the office of the Chief Justice of India is vacant, or when the Chief Justice is by reason of absence or otherwise unable to perform his duties, the duties of his office. Those duties of the office shall be performed by such a one of the other judges of the court as the president may appoint for this purpose. So any one of the judge of the Supreme Court, in consideration of certain other circumstances which I just revealed, can be appointed by the President of India as acting Chief Justice. Then we have Article 127. It deals with appointment of ad hoc judges. So on certain occasions, quorum required may not be there for discharging the duties of the Supreme Court because of several reasons of there being several vacancies. Then the ad hoc judges also can be appointed as Supreme Court judges. And Article 128 deals with the attendance of retired judges at sittings of the Supreme Court. Then High Court and Supreme Court are the court of record. Article 139 says the Supreme Court to be a court of record. So the Supreme Court shall be a court of record and shall have all the powers of such a court, including the power to punish for contempt of itself. So court of record, that is Supreme Court, has got all powers as a court of record, including the power to punish the contempt of itself. The Supreme Court has shall sit in Delhi or in such other place or places as the Chief Justice of India may, with the approval of the President, from time to time appoint. The Supreme Court has got original jurisdiction.
Shall we join again, sir? This meeting will end.
Yeah.
Please join again, sir. Dear students, please join again.
The
Recording stopped.
Supreme Court has got under Article 131 the power of